The opioid abuse crisis has put a heavy burden on law enforcement and the nation's penal system. St. Louis County in northeastern Minnesota is no exception. With a high percentage of inmates in the county lockup professing to substance abuse, now the county has been chosen for a national initiative that could help treat people in jail with an opioid abuse disorder. Here to tell us more is Ross Litman, St. Louis County Sheriff, and also we have with us Judge Shaun Floerke of the Sixth Judicial District, who worked on the county grant application. And thank you so much, both of you, for being here.
Welcome. Thanks. Good to be here.
Good. I want to start with you, Sheriff Litman. Is it overstating things to call opioid abuse a crisis in our region?
Not at all. And it's not only in our region, the entire state, and in the country. I think people are pretty well up to speed on the issue nationwide. And we're no different here in St. Louis County, which you mentioned at the top of the segment here today about the statistics, the number of people that are in custody at the St. Louis County Jail that self-admit to having an issue or problem with heroin or opiates. It's some staggering numbers.
Mm-hmm. So, Judge, how did you happen then to get the funding for this initiative?
Well, we've been talking for quite a while about putting together a program that would bring medically assisted treatment into the jails. Medically assisted treatment saves lives. Mm-hmm. It's evidence-based and it works. And then you hook people into ongoing therapy, behavior change. It's not a miracle kind of thing. So we'd been working on it, and then we saw this grant application where what they're doing is hooking in kind of national best practice, collaborative work, and we thought, we're going to do this. It was never a question whether we're doing it or not, but to bring in kind of that national focus is really
It almost sounds like there will be others, not just medical people, but perhaps others involved in the treatment process?
Yeah, and there's 15 different sites from around the country, so everybody will bring their own perspective. They actually came in today and started 2 days of meeting here. The physician assigned to our group is the medical director for the LA County Jail.
Wow.
I mean, think of I think she said they have 400 psych beds alone. Yeah, so that's what appealed to us. We're going to do this work. It's right to do this work. It's a great place to do this work because everybody comes together. And then if you can get some national best practice, then you build it right as opposed to, you're always going to change, but we'll build it as right as we can on the front end.
Now, Sheriff Litman, you also have a group coming in. I think they're called Health Management Associates. Maybe they've been with you already. So what kind of information are they bringing? What do they do? Do they have experience elsewhere?
They actually, as Shaun mentioned, they actually arrived and they're spending some time with us today.
Okay.
So what they do is they take a lot of information, how we do things here, what's working, what isn't working. And then it also, as Shaun mentioned, kind of bringing their perspective, best practices throughout the country to try to help us and facilitate us to get a program going that's going to be successful for all.
Uh-huh. And then for a follow-up, you'll send staff out to Washington, D.C., is that correct?
Yeah, so 5 of us are heading out to Washington, D.C. next month, and then another group later in the fall. And again, this is just, this grant application and the success of receiving it was just a planning grant to actually get a program up and running and figure out if funding is needed, where that's going to come from is all yet to be determined. But we're really anxious to get this going. The problem is here now, and hopefully we can get something going sooner or later.
Well,
go ahead, please.
And the focus on the grant, is to, when people hit the jail, you identify them as having a need. So if you got an opioid use disorder, you can treat them medically and behaviorally while in jail. But then the focus is then on bridging into the community. Uh-huh. That's where we were talking this morning. Folks leaving the jail without medically assisted treatment are 25 times more likely to die of an overdose than other folks.
Yeah.
So it's critical that you care for them and then you hand off. So we got community partners involved to work, and the handoff might be the bigger piece, and figuring out how not to lose people, how to keep people engaged.
Maybe both of you can address this as long as we're mentioning this. Is the role of the county jail changing a little bit, not just from incarceration, but also clinical?
You are totally right. Yeah. We talked this morning a lot about the jail as part of the safety net for our community. Yeah. Like it or not,
I mean, that's ground zero for a lot of what's going on in the area, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, from the perspective of chemical dependency and drug issues, and also another big piece is the mental health factor and fewer resources in the area. So really the jails, not just in our county, but through the whole country, become the de facto mental health facilities, and in some case substance abuse facilities too.
Not that many beds out there, are there, in clinics?
No.
Very tough. Well, and if we have Essentius sitting at the table, Center for Alcohol and Drug Treatment, HDC, us, courts. If you drop a name in the table, everybody's dealing with that person. It isn't like this is Ross's problem or my problem or the hospital's problem. Everybody's already dealing with somebody, and we're at a point where, like we said, the jail's part of the safety net.
You mentioned that this is going on all over the country, all over the world probably, but there seems to be a noted opioid addiction level in this county. Am I correct? That's higher than at least the rest of the state?
In terms of statistics with overdose deaths, yeah, I think you're right. I don't think that per capita we have a larger percentage of users here in our county, but for whatever reason, we have all too high a number of opioid-related overdoses and deaths, and also methamphetamine.
Yeah, Ross pulled some numbers. Was that 2018? We had more methamphetamine-related deaths in St. Louis County than opioid-related. They're pretty neck and neck, but both of those drugs are pounding hard, and people are using both. People are polysubstance. It's a scary time.
So what will the treatment consist of while they are incarcerated?
Well, we're going to try to find we already do some things for people that come into our facility that are going through withdrawal, and it's a very complicated process, and the rules governing what we can and can't do. And really, I think to expand what we're doing now and to improve upon it, it's going to require outside healthcare providers to work in partnership with us. That's when somebody's in custody. But then also, as we mentioned, the bigger piece is getting some better processes and programs in place once somebody's released, and making sure that they're not, once released, going out there on their own without help.
Right. Judge Floerke, you have the DUI court, and you've been working there for a while. Do you also commonly deal with drug abuse issues?
Oh yeah, 20% of our people are on medically assisted treatment for opioid use disorder. It's everywhere. Yeah, DWIs are not kind of what we used to think about.
Not just
them.
booze.
Yep, just beer and driving down the road. It's polysubstance. So the criminal justice system and interventions are much more complex.
How is that court working? Has it been a success? I mean, you're right there.
You know what I'm going to say. We're the best in the nation. We have really good outcomes. We run about 90% graduation. We have recidivism numbers that people talk about across the nation. Yeah, literally.
So this grant program will expand on that then?
Yeah, and it's just, what's really powerful about Duluth is when you have a problem and you shout out, people come together to solve it. And everybody's working on opioids, hospital, police, law enforcement. This is one more way that people are trying to be, we call it, kind of wraparound services for folks who are struggling. We don't want any more funerals, right?
Will inmates apply for help, or is that something they have to do?
It'll be completely voluntary. I mean, there are programs that the bench and the judges require somebody to go through, but we're looking at a piece as part of this program, educating the inmates that are in our custody and presenting them with the program and options that are available to them, and encouraging them to participate in.
I would assume you're going to be working closely with families, not just the inmate.
That gets a little tricky, but certainly families are, got to have that support on the outside.
Sometimes families are support, sometimes families are a big part of the problem.
Right. Okay.
So you got to.
I understand.
Yeah. And we've talked, one of the neat things about the recovery community is they're giving back. They come up to the jail, they run meetings, and we'll have to expand meeting opportunities and ways for people to find that connection to support sobriety, even within the facility, and then as you move out.
We don't have much time, but I just want to know, about your plans for follow-up, and if this works, then you run out of grant money, then what happens?
Well, this grant money is just to get us trained.
Okay.
We are not relying on that to do a thing.
Sure.
One of the big pieces will be figuring out how to pay for the medication.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. All right.
That'll be my job.
Yeah.
finding the money.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about
knows
that.
I find the money. It's worth it.
Well, thank
It's
you
a word,
so
yeah.
much for coming in and talking to us about this important issue.
Yeah, it's
And
super
we're
important.
very pleased to hear more about it.
Sheriff, Judge, thank you
Yeah.
both.
Thank you.
Thank you.